So this is just to kind of show you how crazy it can get. What are you going to focus on? Right? And so you have people. So everybody has to. Everyone's got to get on ground balls. Right? I mean, it doesn't matter what level you're at, you have to. But a lot of guys don't. Then you have me in former years, hopefully, who will focus exclusively, I can't even find it right now, but who will focus exclusively on offense, you know, doing that. But being able to take all of this and build it into something, you have to do, you got to be smart with your time. So this has this thing, I made it, I don't know how much I like it yet, in all honesty. I probably won't like it in about a day. But I had to get something up for you guys to kind of show you the ideas. So skill acquisition drills, 30% all the time. You go to, so I'd say the most successful program right now in Colorado is probably Denver Elite, led by the DU coaches. They spend at least a third, if not half of the practice on stick skill drills, right? But here's the caveat. They're not just stick skill drills. They are motion drills where the kids learn how to move and they learn their stick skills in a way that represents exactly what they'll do on the field. So, and then you have skeleton drills. Teach the guys how to move within a specific format. Odd man transition and competition drills, that's where they get to compete. Even competition drills, that's where they get to compete. And if you add these up in these categories, for older players, that's 50% of the time. It's 45% of the time there, and then it's 45% of the time there. And so the differentiation between the groups isn't as important, but I just kind of wanted to make it seem cooler than it actually is. But can anyone find the big part of this graph that doesn't quite make any sense?
Bottom. Very bottom.
Good. Exactly. Very bottom. The totals. You got 145% on two of them and 155% on the older ones. Why? No, wrong. You do have time to teach it all, but it goes back to the thing I was talking about.
Outside of practice.
Not outside of practice. No.
With the competition drills and things like that, we want our older guys to be a lot more competitive, especially doing push stuff like that. So we need to talk about that intensity with it a little bit.
I think intensity should be part of it at all times for all the things they're doing, unless you're learning, right? So the chunk it up part, slow it down. Now we're not competitive. We might be intense. Well, now we're not as intense. We want them to focus on learning the question mark, not being intense with that time. So think about the D-Elite example of their stick skill drills. Are they only doing stick skill drills or skill acquisition drills?
There's overlap in each of those.
Exactly. There's always overlap. So this number of the percentage represents the idea that if you're thinking of only one thing, you're most likely wrong, right? So there are certain drills, the first ones we go over, that are very specific. This is how you do this. This is how we want you to do it. But for all the other drills, you know, the clearing drills we're going to go over, they're skill acquisition drills and they're clearing drills. All skeleton drills are representative of our settled offense, defense, clears, rides, man up, man down. And so when we go through our practice plans that we run at Grandview, we'll show you how we integrate a stick skill drill, shooting drill, and an offensive skeleton drill all into the same thing. So sample practice plan. This is from the 8th of January. And so the first thing we start out doing, and so this format I like a lot because it allows me to figure out what I want to cover. I know the drill we're going to do, and then I can leave any other notes there. Now, do I always stick to the plan? Absolutely not. I think it's important that you're able to do it, but it's good to kind of have a plan there, even if you're going to leave it on the field somewhere and have to access your other coach. So yesterday I'm walking around the rink in the Parker Fieldhouse, and Hussey looks over at me and he goes, "Headman passing." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "That's what's next, headman passing," because I had dropped my paper and was looking for it. Okay, so I really want you to, so as you see this one, I'm going to talk about how we move from the 8th of January to yesterday. And so the wristers and form, we're going to do that a lot, and that's just make sure our technique is right and hit it every day. Headman passing, this is the drill that we're doing every time, and this is how you kind of clear in the box. It's also a shooting drill, right? Then we've got our blue offense overview. That's give them the big picture. Let them see the whole thing. And so within our blue offense, we have a dodger being patient up top, a 3-man game with a fade and follow. We've got pass down pick downs, picks with rotations, and post ups. And so I had to cover each element of that as a whole so they could do it. Then we went right into slow skeleton offense, which was 5 guys, since we're playing box, on the field, walking through it, with me giving instructions to each kid as they did it. So I'm not going to go into what that offense is. It's fairly simple, but it's extremely dynamic. And so as we hit the overview and then we have the players actively do it, then for, let's see, this was a Tuesday, I want to say. But then for the last half hour, we just did fireball, which is you got 10 guys out, half on one team, half on the other. You throw a ball out. Whoever picks it up gets it back to you. You give it back to that team, their offense. And then they can play it out, and then whoever gets it back. Basically 5-on-5 scrimmage style thing, but so they get to actually kind of see it. The key is that within these fireball drills, you keep them focused on what they're trying to do, but you just let them play and give those incremental small techniques. So this is a week later, and this is actually not a Tuesday, it's a Friday, and we only have an hour on Fridays. And my objective was I want my guys to learn the offense correctly, and I want them to know exactly how to do it. And so within that, we have about 8 to 10 looks within our offensive set. They've learned to find, in the months we've had it, they understand, I'd say, half of them, but they've learned to find 3 of them, 3 of the 8, which is relatively good in that amount of time, practicing 2 times a week. So notice we started with the same basic idea, so this standing partner passing, we're working on the same collarbone technique, the same snap, but now they're throwing to a person, not off a wall. So we reinforce that principle, and then these shooting drills, the players all set up in the exact formation we want them to set up within the actual offense, and now we have everyone run the offense. So if we look at the turn the corner shooting, I almost have to draw it, don't I? Either way, no, we don't. See if there's a marker here. Nope. All right, so much for the whiteboard example. Actually, I might have one here. Okay. I do. So here's the offense. I'm going to try and explain it in as easy way as I can. So it's based on a fade and follow offense from Duke. The idea is we want this guy to attack the middle of the field. If he comes this way, he fades, and this guy follows, and they move in that formation. If at any point he needs to move the ball, he can, and that initiates a pick down, which he will come off the top of. He'll slip, he'll rotate. And then this guy is attacking the middle. If he comes to here, he can do that same motion on the opposite side. So it's very simple, but it's very dynamic. And so this first one, we're working on accepting, using the pick, getting to the middle of the field and shooting. Then we're working on, I'll just stay over here and show it. So then we're working on getting over the top, rolling back, and shooting. Then the next one is hit the fade. So we'll work on 2. As he comes over this pick, this guy starts to fade again. He's got to come to the middle of the field, and he'll hit this fade. And then we work on it again, whereas he's coming up to the top, he'll roll back, and he'll hit this guy who's coming up the top after the slip. And so each one is teaching a specific look within the offensive concepts that we have. So if you take a very simple offense, like just a alley dodge, First, you teach the alley dodge and how he should shoot it in that situation. Then you teach, okay, now it's not there. What do we want to have happen when we bang it forward? Bang it forward, look through. What if you want to throw it backwards? Backwards, attack the rotation. And so whatever your thing is, that's how we want to teach it. Nations is this, where as he comes off this pick, he moves it quick, and then he hits the slip. Timing's not quite there, and then a waggle, what we're calling a waggle now is like an off-ball pick, where he'll come up and through. But so we emphasized each way of hitting this offense that day. Now, that week we played a game where we didn't do well on offense because they didn't flow it. They didn't know it reset itself. They were looking for these plays, not how to flow and find them. And so the next week we did, so basically same ideas. In the wristers we learned big pump. This is actually yesterday. I should have added another one. But so this big pump technique, working on our form, and we worked on turning the corner with our wristers. So we partnered the guys up, and if we go back to the offensive idea, as this guy's trying to turn the corner, sometimes he's going to be engaged with another player, and so we have him engage and get his shot off rather than just having him shoot it. So we're building and we're trying to push them into the chaos of new technique, you're engaged, now someone's on you, but you still got to get the shot off. Back to the headman passing and finish with active playing. And when we did this, we actually had a player, the player who was able to break us down at the end of the day was a player who did the turn the corner wristers where they're engaged. He actually did that while we were playing. And so then you highlight the idea of you're actually trying to take the teaching that we're teaching you and put it into live play. And so that was a big thing. After we focused on those shooting drills, what we ended up doing was we highlighted and made them run through the whole thing again as so skeleton it the whole time with defensemen to try and see what they were lacking the first time. And then last week's game, we played one of the other top teams in our division and we annihilated them, 8-4. We beat Valor 8-4. And it was because they played with the movement and the dynamics were so good that they found all the looks they needed. And Valor tried to press out, which was just not a good idea versus us. Any questions on that and how it builds? And that, so this is part of the idea that I want to be able to orient, help you guys orient and have you guys figure it out. And then I can also help if you guys have trouble in the season.
My question isn't related to the building, but I'm just curious how you deal with the different rules from box to field, specifically picking.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I am screwing them up for field by letting them do moving.
No, you are helping them. The biggest thing that they need to learn is that contact is coming. That's what they have to learn. And so they can push out, right? But once they have to stand, they just got to know it's coming. But if they don't get used to contact, they won't pick correctly. And so when I was at 3D, even on the field, we would have them throw actual box picks so they can get used to that contact. The key is once you start your season and now they're setting picks, have you defined it enough to where they're able to do it? And have you had a player who you know is going to be setting picks get run through? So have you seen that he'll hold his ground? So here's probably the best advice I can give you for guys who won't. Don't let them actually set the picks. Make them slip early. So show a pick, have them slip. Yeah.
I think the other thing about playing box is that it teaches stick skills in confined spaces. So I think that's another huge advantage of having youth kids play box. All kids play box. That's why we do it at the high school levels, because it's for a guy to slip, and I'll give you a perfect example. I got this really fast, great midi, went in the box, and he wants to run, and so it's teaching him. He's lost that advantage of speed in the box because it's a confined space, so now you have to work on your stick, right? So I think, the benefits far outweigh the negatives in terms of the transition. You just have to kind of coach the kids outside. Rules change a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
No.
Oh, for sure. He's going to be good. But, I mean, I'm talking lightning fast, lightning shot, but in the box he does. And the other thing I'll mention on that one is within the concepts of building a motion or something of that nature, we ignore one of the biggest tenets in box lacrosse, which is righties on the right side, lefties on the left side, because it's not going to apply in the spring, right? We're going to want that, and I think that shooting with your stick up field is important, but the stick skills and being able to do it from both sides is very much so more important. Finding the looks in that space, like Coach mentioned, is extremely important. Okay, so here's what I'm going to start with. Passing, catching, stick protection technique for 15% of kind of our practice. And obviously a lot of these will overlap, but focus on those the first week of the season, right? And so here's the other issue that I have, that you have. I have to restart teaching everything 4 times a year, 3 times really. Fall, because we get different players. Winter, because we get different players. And then spring, now we actually have our crew. I've got to reteach what I taught in the fall and the winter in the spring to bring kids who I've added up to speed. And so we focused a lot on technique in the fall, and we're going to have to hit it again, and the kids who weren't with us are going to have to really pick it up. So for all you guys taking pictures, I'm going to post this on POWLAX.com under coaching resources and link it to the video as well. So once this goes up, that'll go up. And so you'll be able to have all this as well. It'll be a big file because all the videos that are in it a little later. Clearing and transition play, hidden conditioning for the midfielders, and then it's going to build the structure. That's one of the things I've missed in previous years quite a bit is if you don't build the frame of the house, you can't work on the windows or the doors or any of that stuff or the carpeting, right? So all those little things that you enjoy and you see every day, the offenses, the goals, you can't even get to them in a game unless you've built the structure of how it goes. Ground balls, obviously ground balls win games, and then move it after they pick it up. So there's a couple of drills that we'll have in a minute that'll teach that. And then shooting drills that teach the offense and sliding drills that teach the defense and the footwork. And so that'll be another portion of our practice. And then dodging and defending, which will be position-based, in tight, short, and long. And in tight means the players are engaged and the shooter can shoot. So where do we want you to shoot from? We're going to put you there. We're going to make someone play you, and you've got to figure out what to do. Defensemen, you can no longer throw checks. You have to only use your footwork. Short is we're going to give you about 5 yards to run to try to get to that spot. You want to stay engaged the whole time on defense. And then long is your traditional style of dodge. Now, I should have added recovery in here too, and we'll see a couple examples of this in a minute, but having drills where the offensive and defensive players will switch positions, you'll throw it to the offensive player, and the defenseman will have to approach them and then play, work a lot better than everybody get to a corner and, hey, somebody run at me, right? So that whole idea of 5 yards, I don't know any team in the top 10, probably 10, who will actually dodge out of a end line. They'll all move the ball because they know the defense is set. And so giving them that recovery one-on-one is more important. And then live competition and gameplay drills is about another 15%. I probably should have added these up and then made them bigger because they will be bigger, but the whole overlap idea. All right, so that's a good time for a question. What are you guys going to start with? What's something that's on your mind? Because X's and O's go through my head all day. I'm like, oh, but if we could get this look or this look. But then I got to kind of like draw myself back. So form and fundamentals, obviously, for the young guys.
Do anything else without being able to catch the ball and pass the ball and stuff. So that's where we're going to start.
Totally.
Yep.
Cool.
I start the same place though. Beginning of the year, and I'll need to revisit the fundamentals and get solid something.
Totally. And I think the thing about this presentation and why I like it more than last year's is that this will give you, we'll go over a ton of examples for your team that will allow them to do both.
Is this for an entire season or each practice?
This is the first week. That's what I'm going to start with.
So some of this for first practice, Some of this for the second practice, or all of this, both practices?
All this for the first 5 practices. Probably added some more stuff in a little bit later, but we'll hit every one of these things in our first practice. How long are your practices? 90 minutes?
75 minutes.
Okay. So ours are 2 hours. I like them even if they're a little longer than that, in all honesty. But the complaint that I got from other coaches who are no longer here due to other, whatever, they just moved, but was I can't hit stuff for 2.5 hours. There's not enough to teach. And I looked at him and I was like, no, not like, there's enough time. The key is whether or not they can actually focus for that length of time. Because another part of that deep practice on the talent code stuff was how long individuals were actively in that deep practice state. And what they found was that they can be in that state for about 4 hours per day. Once they go beyond that, it's not what they want to do. The key is to make sure that the time they're practicing is that deep practice. It's just like being at work or trying to do anything. If you're distracted, you're not deep practicing. If you're bouncing from one thing to the next, it's not deep practicing.